I'm opening. We have an eye, sort of a nostril, 2 teeth. One of the teeth has a small cavity. Close call, folks, but I think we got here just in time.
Presented by Maria Menounos and Kevin Undergaro. This is Anatomy of a Movie. In-depth discussions and breakdowns of various movie titles. And now that you've seen the movie, let the dissection begin.
Hey guys, I'm Chloe West, and welcome to Anatomy of a Movie, where we break down a movie in all of its parts. And today I am joined by David Krumholtz.
Yes.
And we are going to be talking about his new indie feature, The Big Ask. But you guys might know him from Numbers or tons of other films. Let me just read your IMDb for a little bit. Adam's Family Values, The Santa Claus, I Love You Man, Ray, The Mexican.
There's
okay.
No, you can keep going.
Okay. Freaks and Geeks. I mean, you guys can, you see that
it's me, folks.
You've been in, in 21 years in the industry.
Do I need any introduction, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
you do.
Yes,
I think
I
you
probably
do.
Yes. Yeah. It's
That's
me.
awesome.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. This is amazing, this whole setup you got here.
Yes, we're very proud. It's a lot of lights and TVs, and it makes it fancy.
Yeah, yeah. There's all kinds of, as long as nothing falls on me,
no,
that's fine.
We're fine.
Yeah.
It's up to code.
Okay, good.
I think.
Good.
We'll see.
All right.
But I want to say happy birthday. You just celebrated a birthday on the 15th.
Right. Yeah.
That's awesome. Did you do anything fun for it?
That night, no. I have a 7-week-old daughter at home right now.
Congratulations.
So there isn't a lot of joy to be had outside of just looking at her. Aww. You can't really do much when you have a 7-week-old daughter. You can't really go party or do any of that kind of stuff. I am sleeping. We've worked it out. She's a good baby. She's a good baby, so she's letting us sleep. But yeah, no, I had to trade because we have my wife and I have my birthday and then we have our anniversary a week apart. So it was like, okay, which one are we can't celebrate both because of the baby. So which one? So we chose the anniversary, obviously. Oh,
you were a good husband.
And we saw Billy Joel at the Hollywood Bowl, which
nice.
That was awesome. Yeah.
Was it good?
It was amazing, yeah.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Really good.
And you also are just fresh off of the Tribeca Film Festival, where your film showed. And
I guess, yes. Is that correct? I don't know if it showed at the film festival.
Not this year, but it did. It's a Tribeca film.
It's a Tribeca film, yes.
Yes. Okay. So it didn't show at the festival.
No, they didn't.
But they bought it from you guys.
They bought it. You would think they would have showed it.
Yeah. They should have. Well, you guys were shown. You premiered in Seattle.
Yes.
And then you won in Phoenix for Best Ensemble.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then we also, I guess, we're at a festival called Waterfront. I think there were 8 festivals total.
Wow.
So we made a little festival circuit. And yeah, it's been really well received all over the place so far.
It's amazing. And for those of you who have already seen it, because it is available on video on demand.
It is.
They know how amazing it is. But also it'll be out in theaters, in select theaters, in 3 days.
That's correct.
Starting in LA, which is great because it's sort of an LA film. I mean, it takes place in Joshua Tree. It's about, these 3 couples who go to the desert. Your character it's a dark comedy. I mean, I feel like we love to hate you in this film a little bit, because you're selfish, but
maybe you hate to love me.
I do. I think that's actually what it is.
That's what it is.
I hate that we like you.
Yeah.
Because you are selfish and everybody's trying to help you so it starts off, your mother has died of cancer, and you and your girlfriend, and then your 4 best friends, I guess, your 2 other couples meet you, and you guys rent a house in the desert.
Right. And I've just come out of a very difficult time in my life where I've watched my mother die from a cancer, slowly sort of die from a terrible cancer. And so it's my birthday, and I invite my friends who were so good to me during that tough period out to the desert, and I tell them that what I really, really, really want for my birthday this year is to sleep with all of them. Not all of them, just their girlfriends. And my girlfriend, who's there, who's totally embarrassed and really just kind of mortified at the idea that I'd even bring this up. And there's a lot of eye rolling and a lot of, you've got to be kidding me. And I just don't give up. I tell them that I need an explosion of free love to heal me. It's the
and
only
you want them
thing
to rub your chest.
And
I
like
really loved that
at
image
the very
the whole
least to
time.
rub my chest. But yeah, I'd like them to do a lot more than that. And of course, my buddies, played by Jason Ritter and Zach Knighton, their reaction is, come on, dude, you just want to have sex with our girlfriends and you're being a pervert and it's gross. And I sort of have a hard time convincing them that that's actually not the case, that it's more that I really just sort of had this vision, had this dream of an explosion of free love. And I think they need to lighten up. And they think I am a total a-hole. And what ends up happening is that kind of all happens within the first like 15 minutes of the movie.
I know. I was actually surprised. The big question
Yeah.
happened so quickly.
Right. And so the whole movie ends up becoming this awkward meditation on how far would you go to help a friend in need. And what happens when a friend asks for help in a way that is off-putting and outputting and potentially damaging to your friendship. You know, it's a tough call, and so the movie has a lot of great sort of emotional moments where it becomes, you know, I don't want to say dramatic, but you know, it definitely drops the comedy a bit for a second and becomes about this guy's, you know, desperation to make this happen, and his friends' lives sort of unravel as a result of it.
Absolutely. And I think what's interesting is that the plot is almost ancillary towards what's really happening with the characters.
Right.
Because the question does get asked so quickly in the beginning, and it doesn't really get answered towards the end, but the whole time we're not really wondering about it the whole time. It's really about the partnerships that happen and the characters and how they deal with it individually and then within each partnership, and then the friendships between each other and between the partnerships, and how they deal with this pressure cooker of a question, because you can tell in the film you guys are really close friends and close enough to where, you know, people are really debating whether or not they're actually going to sleep with you. Where when, as an audience member, you think about that, you're like, obviously you'd be like, no, I'm in a relationship, this isn't happening, or no, I'm not going to let you sleep with my girlfriend, no way. But they really relate to you, and it's really interesting. And
yeah, I liken it to something in the vein or the tone of like a Cassavetes movie.
okay,
You know, where it's very character driven.
yes,
Every sort of connective thought is played out for as awkward and maybe not as literary, dramatic in a literary sense as movies usually do. It's very much like this is a window to these people's world. And a lot of times what makes the most profound moments in the movie are the silences between the characters. And it's a great crowd movie in that sense, because really the crowd, the audience watching the film, is confronted with the question themselves and sort of forced in those silences to go into the psychology of each one of the characters and ask themselves, okay, what would I do if I was in this character's shoes? Would I, you know, and so it becomes a really will they or won't they movie. And the way it's played with a large group of people is really fun to watch, because there's a lot of snickering and giggling. Because I think halfway through the movie, when the women in the movie start considering potentially doing this for me, I think the audience starts to consider it happening and maybe it not being the worst thing in the world, and then that's
not
kind
being
of
that
fun.
weird.
Yeah, and so you're kind of in on the what will happen-ness of it. And I think by the end of the movie, you're either rooting for my character to have sex with these three women or not. And I'm not going to say what happens at the end.
yes,
but
we won't ruin it for everyone.
Yeah. So, and I show my butt in it.
Yeah, which is great.
Besides the point totally. But
and your dog
just
is
wanna
in
mention
it.
that. My dog is in it. That's correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
my lovely, and she's amazing in it.
She really is. I was.
Tell me it's not like.
How many takes
yeah.
was the scene when you're in the guest room with her? And
Not
you're
many.
really kind of. I
Like-
felt really bad for her, to be honest. That was one
I
of the
felt
parts
a little
where
bad for her,
you hate
too.
you.
Yeah, but she was getting a lot of treats.
Oh, okay.
But in that scene is about my character hating myself.
Yes.
Right? I mean, I'm saying nasty things to my dog as if
yourself.
I'm saying, what I'm really saying is to myself. And, yeah, it was hard saying that kind of stuff to my dog because, you know, we all project personalities onto our dogs, and it's like she can totally understand what I'm saying to her right now when I call her an asshole. Of course she can't. She was just tired. It was 3 a.m. She was having none of it. She didn't understand why I was yelling at her. But what's great about it is, you know, instead of you getting that sort of trained dog acting where like they're clearly looking off camera at their trainer.
Oh yeah.
And then
that's an interesting point.
You get my dog sort of looking at me and kind of reacting to me with her little eyebrows and wondering why I'm talking to her like that. And
which is a real reaction for a dog.
Yeah, she doesn't indicate at all. You know, there's no.
What a good actor.
She's really a great actor. Yeah. To be honest with you, it's like my favorite stuff in the movie is watching her because she's a really funny dog and she has a lot of personality. And
well, they say you're not supposed to act with children or animals because everyone will just watch them. And I think in that case, the dog maybe stole the scene.
I'm willing to share the spotlight with her. 'Cause she's my baby.
One of the big scenes that has to do with the dog is, I don't want to ruin it for everybody, but towards the end, something happens to the dog, and everyone in the house who was either contemplating helping you sort of gangs up against you now.
Correct.
You are you are enemy number one.
Right.
Everybody
no one's
hates
willing
you.
to listen to me when I say I didn't hurt the dog.
Right.
And it's because there's so much resent built up over the weekend about my question. And my friends are convinced because of the question that I've asked that I've gone mad, that I've lost my mind. So if that's true, why wouldn't it be true that I hurt this dog? And yeah, it's a tough scene for my character. It's really sort of the emotional climax of the movie.
Absolutely. What was it like playing that? And really, I always wonder, how many takes do you have to do for an emotional scene like that? And how taxing is that as an actor? And because that is the climax sort of the scene. And then after that, everybody kind of forgives you. And then the question is answered a little bit.
Well, the script was extremely well written. And it felt to me that there was a nice build, organic build in scenes up until that moment. Mm-hmm. So at least I didn't have to sort of create a manufactured thing or compensate for something that wasn't in the script in that scene, if that makes sense.
Because the storyline wasn't jumping or anything.
It wasn't jumping.
It was very chronological.
And you know, it was difficult in the sense that you know, most of my performance, I think I kind of went with a less is more attitude or approach, where, you know, I kind of played him smaller and quieter and more real just because I didn't want anything to be, I didn't want there to be anything obnoxious about him, so that you really did feel like the question was coming from an earnest place in who he was. But then that scene is the big sort of moment where he screams for help and screams for people to listen to him. We did a lot of takes. There was some frustration, I'm not going to lie, on the set that night. This is a really difficult movie to make, you know, as are a lot of, you know, SAG ultra low budget movies. Yeah. Which is what this was. You're talking 3 weeks out in the middle of nowhere. Living in a house with a couple other, I shared a house with Jason Ritter and Zach Knighton. You know, there's not a lot of money to go around. This is a no frills deal. And you're shooting as fast as you can, as much as you can. We shot out there for 3 weeks. Wow. At that point in our shoot, we were shooting nights, which is really, really difficult, especially after long, hot days in the desert.
And cold nights.
And just kind of feeling, you know, the desert is a character in itself. It certainly is in this movie. And it really does kind of zone you out in a bit and sort of make you it's impossible not to sort of go to an introspective place when you're in the desert. And when you're making a movie that you're worried is not going to turn out as well as the script reads, and because it's an independent and there's not a lot of money, and what if they're not getting everything they need on film and all the coverage, you do get to a point where you get frustrated. And when you're shooting 3 a.m. in the morning, a scene like that, you do get frustrated. And I think on that night, you know, I was giving it my all, and I felt like I was in the zone. And Thomas Beatty and Rebecca Fishman were the directors of the film. Thomas had written the script. And, you know, you give so much trust to your director in a circumstance like that, and they earned it because they're lovely people who had a very distinct and particular vision for the film. And so it's not that I didn't trust them, it was that they at times, because just by the nature of there being two directors, they contradicted one another. And in that scene in particular, I did a few takes that I felt really good about and Thomas felt really good about. And Thomas said, okay, we're going to go to lunch and move on from this. And we went to lunch and I thought, okay, I'm done with it. It's out of my system. And it can be emotionally taxing. So I was a little exhausted / riled up.
Yeah.
And then Thomas came to me at the end of the lunch break and said, hey, Rebecca would like to do another couple takes because she doesn't feel like we got it. And I said, well, you said we did. And I kind of
past it already.
Yeah, I've kind of moved past it. And like, that was tough. You know, it's going to be tough to get back into it. And so I think I got, if I recall correctly, I think I got a little angry because I was tired.
Yeah. And then they're like, use it.
yeah. And I did. You know, ultimately I did. It's not like I stormed off the set. There was no storming off the set of this.
Storming into the middle of the
desert.
desert.
Yeah, you're going to storm into the middle of the desert and come back, you know, weathered. So, no, I gave it I did the best I could. But yeah, that was a tough scene. We did a good few takes.
It was incredible. That was, I think, the point when the audience really was 100% on your side.
Yeah.
Because during the whole film, we're sort of thinking, I think, what the boyfriends are really thinking.
Right.
Which is this coming from a sincere place, or is he just kind of being like a big douchebag? And we're always wondering. And then this scene with the prostitutes, which is hilarious and sad at the same time. It's I think the whole movie is a good mix of hilarity and sadness.
Well, to Rebecca Fishman's credit, she was right that night. You know, she knew how important that scene was to the whole film,
to the pieces
to making the audience sort of understand where my character was coming from. And so I don't think there was any reason to just stop once we felt we had it.
Right.
You know, why not get some insurance takes and maybe find something new? So I'm looking back, it was totally a good call on her part. And yeah, the prostitute scene was the opposite. I mean, we all had fun that day. There is, I think, a take or two that didn't make it into the final cut where I'm lying on the bed sandwiched between the two prostitutes and I just start weeping uncontrollably.
That's awesome.
And they sort of sit there and try to comfort me. As it is now, I think you can just see how depressed I am. But if they were able to keep that shot going, you'd see I kind of broke into a full blast like breakdown in between these two prostitutes.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit more about having two directors, and specifically a male and a female director. Because
specifically husband and wife.
And husband and wife, yes, which is really incredible and different. And but I think what made it so great for this film is that the relationships that all the characters have to go through. And also knowing that this movie was sort of about a little, you know, autobiographical for them. Yeah. In the sense that they do go on these trips with their friends, and they did have a tough year.
That house is the house they go to, actually.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. That's the house. And they've gone there since.
That's really incredible.
They made the film, so yeah.
And that's really, really neat.
Yeah, they kind of,
and then, so it's interesting to think about, because sometimes, like, as a female, when you watch TV or you watch films and you know it's a male writer and a male director, you're like, I think the female perspective is a little gone, or vice versa. And I'm just interested to see, because you guys had both perspectives going. Right. And you said that, you know, Rebecca wanted to go back and do another take. Was that happening a lot? Or
I think it was. I think, you know, performance was so key to the movie.
Yes.
And, you know, it's kind of you know, they had their cake and they wanted to eat it too, and good for them. I mean, they had great actors. You know, Melanie Linsky is a great actress. Gillian Jacobs and Anna O'Reilly. And so, yeah, I mean, they felt like, well, we have them here. Let's see how far we can push them into maybe a place that they're uncomfortable with, and or maybe a new direction that we haven't discovered yet on film. I mean, it's tough. I can understand as a director when you feel like every take an actor gives you is better than its last. You just want to keep doing more and more takes to see how good it can get, regardless of how much time you have to shoot the scene or how exhausted the actors are. So yeah, I think, you know, they were sticklers for getting the best take they possibly could get, but that's what all directors should do.
Right, because if it was up to actors, it'd be one take and done.
Well, maybe
One, a
3
few
takes.
Yeah, like
yeah.
let me play a little bit.
Yeah.
Feel like make me feel good, and then
I can't tell you how many times I've done a thing and I'm like, boom, that was the one. And no one else thinks, like everyone's like, we should really do another. So what?
There's a great...
I felt it that time. It's like, you felt it. We didn't feel it.
We weren't sure we got that.
Yeah.
There's a great story, I think, of Bruce Willis doing something like that in Die Hard. Like, just a look up, an eyebrow, and him being like, we got the take. Great.
Yeah.
On to the next
I'll tell you a
one.
funny story, actually. I did a movie called Addams Family Values. Oh, you mentioned it when I was a kid. And there's this big dance number in it with Raul Julia and Angelica Houston. And at the end of the dance number, there's a major effect where, like, literally 150 bottles of champagne pop at the same time and spray all over the place in this dance hall. And so, you know, this was before, you know, CGI was really a popular thing. So they had a special effects rig that made all these champagne bottles, these actual champagne bottles, go off at the same time. And it was a very sensitive rig, as you can imagine, because it's real champagne bottles, real corks. And the whole idea was that Raul Julia and Angelica Houston were going to do this tango. And as soon as the tango ended, the thing was going to go off and they would hold it and you'd get the shot, and that was that. And they did the first take, and they get to that last moment. They're done with the tango. Boom. The champagne pops perfectly. And Raul Julia didn't wait. And he broke out of the tango hold and said, I think it's good. We got it. And they were like, no, we can't. You didn't give us enough time. Like, we can't use it.
Oh, no.
So they had to spend, you know, who now knows how many hours re-rigging. First of all, cleaning the set and then re-rigging
oh, my gosh.
all the champagne bottles. Yeah. So.
Oh, those poor PAs.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
You guys didn't have any...
Oh, I have stories.
I could listen to them
Days
forever.
of stories for you.
I love it. You actually, that sounds like, is that your new character from...
Oh, I guess it is, yeah.
Yeah?
It's just kind of a default that
just
I go
comes
to.
out now?
Yeah.
Well, you're now going to be doing, it's called
.com, yeah.
.com, and this is a new project.
Correct.
And you play something based off of your grandma.
Correct.
But her name is Gigi.
Gigi, yeah. Her name is Gigi Rotblum. A lot of people don't know that that's her last name.
I didn't know her last name.
Rotblum.
Okay.
Rotblum. And she is a very attitudey old Jewish lady. She's kind of like Linda Richmond, the Mike Myers character that he used to do on SNL, but really filthy and really dirty. And it's a weather website where she tells you the weather in a terribly dirty and very sort of honest, brutally honest way.
The costuming and makeup were amazing.
Well, it's done by the guys that did Bad Grandpa.
Yes, Oscar nominated,
Yeah,
which
Oscar
is
nominated.
incredible.
So, yeah.
I mean, you look unrecognizable. You look exactly like an old Jewish grandma. It was, it's so fun to watch.
Oh, it was a lot of fun to do.
And I really think you can only recognize you in your eyes. I think that's the only part that looks anything like you, because everything else is so well done. I mean, you even have like green fingernails on.
Yes, we do. My wife went out and got those fingernails. And
oh, she did?
Yeah, no, it was fun. It was like one of those things on my Hollywood acting career bucket list. Was like, do something in full prosthetics.
Yeah.
And so it was cool. It was so much fun. I'd much rather be her than be me at any point in any situation. Because it's interesting, once you're in a full makeup like that, you know, people don't see you anymore when you're talking to them. And so you can be that person. You can really embody. And I didn't want to be me. I was only in it for 4.5 hours. That's how long it took to shoot all the 35 vignettes that are on the site. But those are like the best 4.5 hours of my life, sadly enough. But yeah, that was on my bucket list. Working with a monkey, more specifically an orangutan.
Really?
I really want to work with an orangutan. I still haven't gotten that. I met a monkey. but I've never worked with. I met a monkey on a set, but I've never actually done a scene interacting with a monkey of any sort.
Maybe you can be like in George of the Jungle, like 7.
Something.
Whatever one there. I don't even know if they're singles.
Dunstan checks in too.
Yeah. And
I really want to work with an orangutan.
Why an orangutan
sweet.
specifically?
Because they're the best.
Because they kind of look like grandparents.
I did a book report. They do. They have old souls.
They do, and they sort of have saggy boobs, and they sit very hunched over.
I'm not going to make a comment on an orangutan's saggy boobs, but clearly it's something you've observed, and that might be something you want to talk about with your therapist at some point.
All right. Speaking of therapists now.
Yes. No, I did a book report on orangutans when I was a kid, and so I'm fascinated with them. But yeah, that's on my bucket. Working with a naked lady was on my bucket. Got that out of the way. That was awesome. What else? There was a few things.
Was Brad Pitt or like? I mean, you've worked with incredible
I've been lucky enough. Yeah. I'd like to make a movie in Europe. That's on my bucket list.
You haven't done that yet?
No. That'd be really cool, shooting on the streets of Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no.
Maybe you can combine all of your bucket lists.
So make a movie with Brad Pitt on the streets of Europe. Brad Pitt and an orangutan.
Yep.
And a naked woman comes into the scene.
Naked women in Europe are everywhere,
and
apparently.
I'm in full... Maybe I'm in orangutan... Maybe I'm like an orangutan. I'm in orangutan prosthetics, but I'm also working with a real orangutan.
Yeah.
And maybe the orangutan thinks I'm an orangutan and like kisses me.
Yeah.
Or does what they do, those things, you know?
Yes.
Maybe he goes...
And you can throw poop at it. They do that too.
Orangutans are more civilized than throwing poop. Yeah, please don't talk crap
I'm really
about
offending the orangutan expert.
You know, they kind of do that whole thing. They wave.
They
They're
do.
Really sweet.
And I used to live near the National Zoo, and so they have them there.
The Audubon Zoo?
No, in D.C.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, you
They're
can
the
go
best.
for free. They're very cool.
They look at you and communicate.
I want to talk a little bit.
You don't want to talk about orangutans?
I mean, I could talk about them for hours.
Okay.
But I do want to talk about, so on Anatomy of a Movie, we really like to break apart the way films are made a little bit more than what I think some other people do. And
I love that.
Yeah, and I want to talk about where in the process you were when you got the script, and were you one of the first actors to be attached? Because I did hear that Melanie Lynskey became attached after she heard you were part of it.
I feel like it was the other way around, but I'm not entirely sure. That is the only answer.
There was a story that like each of you guys heard someone else is going to be in, and they were like, "Ooh, I want to work with them," because like you said, it was a SAG low budget, so you have to be willing. The script has to be good enough because it's an all-star cast. I mean, you guys are really heavy hitters, and like
it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So what was that like? Cast. How was it when you got the script? You read it. You liked it, or did you need convincing?
Well, no. Here's what happened. So Thomas Beatty's good friend, an actress named Hutchison Hancock, who's actually in the film as one of the prostitutes. She's the meth head prostitute. She, as a mutual friend, she reached out to me and said, "Hey, my buddy wrote this script, and they're gonna shoot it in the desert in April." And it must have been January or something. And when you hear... Having done a lot of independent film, when you hear we're going to shoot it within the next couple months, it's exciting because it means they have the money. They really are going to shoot it. Because so many times you hear like, you know, they're hoping to make the movie in August. And then August becomes October. And then before you know it, the money fell through. We're not making the movie. But this was like, in a couple months, they are going to make this movie. You should look at this role. And I'm not entirely certain, and you'd have to ask Thomas Beatty about it, whether or not I was their original choice for the role I ended up playing for Andrew. But, you know, I went in just like I always do and auditioned for it.
Oh, wow.
And I really, really wanted it. And I think I did very well at the audition.
What scene was the audition scene?
It actually was the scene where I asked them.
It
was the big ask. It was the question.
Wow.
Yeah, the question scene. And so I did that, and they seemed to really, really like what I did, I guess, because I got hired.
You got it.
And then, everybody just sort of came on board. I want to say that Jason Ritter was cast and Gillian Jacobs might have been cast prior to me being cast. I can't quite recall. I may be wrong. But yeah, we had our first initial read through. at Thomas's mom's house.
Oh my gosh.
And, it was unanimous amongst the entire cast how much we loved the script, how much the script sort of communicated everything it needed to communicate, and how we all sort of personally related to some aspect of the story in one way or another. And the script, in a way, became our love for the script, and our love for the film became the bond that we needed as a cast to get through the 3 weeks of filming
Right.
on top of each other, because that's basically what we were. I mean, we were right on top of each other. We lived next, we lived in a little tiny house with each other, and, we hung out every single night. And, our chemistry was, as people, was sort of kismet, because, a lot of the time there's always like one bad apple in the bunch, or, you know what I mean? Like, there's always something that kind of ruins it. And that wasn't the case here. We all became famous friends really quickly. And I think we all enjoyed that. Like, we were all cognitive of like, wow, we are all getting along. This is unlike a lot of other experiences. So, and we all understood how that was important for the film.
Yeah, for the script, I think, to really see the friendship.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think you buy it. I think it's totally real. But again, the script was the foundation, and I don't think any of us could have felt as comfortable with putting that kind of friendly intimacy onto film if the script didn't sort of lay the groundwork for that.
Yeah,
That
really
makes
cool.
sense.
And it was originally called Teddy Bears.
Have I
It
stopped
did
making
make
sense about an hour ago?
You're fine.
Before I even got here?
But it was originally called Teddy Bears.
Right.
And it went to festivals as Teddy
Right.
Bears. So how did it change? Because that's sort of risky. And I mean, obviously, I don't know how much you know about this, because this
I
is
know a
sort
little
of
bit
leaves
about it.
the actor side.
It does. So Teddy Bears, it was called Teddy Bears because
The plant.
Yeah, there are cacti at Joshua Tree that have so many needles on them that from afar they look really, really fuzzy and cozy like teddy bears. But if you touch them, they are super, they'll really mess you up.
Yeah,
It's very hard to get them out of your skin.
In the film, your girlfriend tells you she wants to stab you with them.
Right. And she actually grabs one.
Yeah.
And puts all these, and I have to pick the needles out because she's so angry about the position I've put her in, my character, not me. I was nice to her. But yeah, so it was called Teddy Bears, named after the plant. And I think that Tribeca Films, to their credit, felt that wasn't, that the title didn't say enough about what the movie was about.
Yeah.
And when, ultimately we want people to see it, and the movie has to be sold. So, the Big Ask is the Big Ask as a title stimulates a lot more curiosity than does Teddy Bears. My only issue with it being called the Big Ask, frankly, is that when people ask me what I have coming out, I say, oh, I'm in a movie called The Big Ask, and people think I said The Big Ass. It sounds like The Big Ass.
But you show your butt.
And I show my butt in the movie, which
So
is
they're
even
confused.
and they're like, "Oh, is your ass the big ass?" And I'm like, "Well, I think
You're
I
like,
have."
I am the big ass in it.
Yes. Well,
Because
actually,
I'm
I think
also
I don't have much of an ass. I have more of a back with a slit in it. I'm just like, my ass doesn't actually come. It's just one big back. And then there's a sort of slit at the bottom of the back, and that's my butt. But yeah, that's my only issue with it being called the Big Ass, because that I constantly have to
Just
correct people. Yeah.
Or really not be lazy with your speech.
Yeah, I have to say
is
the Big
tough.
Ask. But then people go, the Big Ask? What is? And it takes them a second. It's like, oh, ask. So someone asked a big question. Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Do you have a favorite part in the movie? Because my favorite part is when your character gets upset at your friend and you're like, I am on the verge of a nervous breakdown. And he says,
Yeah.
So is everyone. It's called life.
Right.
What's your favorite part?
Well, besides the part with my dog, the parts with my dog, which are very sort of personally special to me, obviously, I actually like the scene that I have with Melanie Linsky, where she's super angry at me. She's truly had enough. And I feel I totally get it. My character totally gets why she's angry.
Mm-hmm.
And he's sort of apologetic, and he's sort of not. He never assumed she would be so torn apart and troubled by it. And she sort of makes a really, grounded and sort of face to face, in his face attempt to get him to drop this whole "I want to have sex with everybody" thing. She just talks to him like a man, like the boyfriend that she's been in love with, and he talks right back to her and says, "Look, I know you're upset." And then they hear a weird noise from outside, and they're able to have a moment of levity between them. So there's this terribly stressful thing going on, and then sort of in the middle of it, you still see that they love each other and that they've kind of lost each other, but there's still a semblance of what they had there.
Yeah.
Because I think it's the moment in the movie where, as an audience, you're like, oh, there's hope for them.
Yes.
They're going to get through this.
Because they do believe it in the end.
They do.
But
yeah, so that's my favorite moment.
Your character is so frustrating in the fact that he gets it. It's
well,
not
he's
that
frustrated
he's
with himself.
disconnected.
Yeah.
He's not disconnected from the way everyone's feeling towards him. He's like, no, I
totally
get it.
Like,
I get that this is crazy, but doesn't mean I still don't want
and
it.
I think
and I still don't need it. And that's what's so frustrating, but also it's frustrating because we can't hate you.
But that's kind of the comic engine of the movie,
yes.
in a way.
It's almost like...
It's that, like, I know I'm a fucking asshole.
Excuse my language. I get it.
Yeah.
It's almost like
a
Judd
Can you curse on a
Apatow
podcast?
Movie. Yeah, this is the
but
internet.
It's not. Okay, good.
The internet.
Well, shit and poo-poo.
yeah.
And
but yeah,
and
so what else do you have coming up? You're going to be in a film with Robert Downey Jr., The Judge.
Yeah.
Which sounds rad.
It's pretty cool, yeah. It's Robert Downey Jr. and Robert Duvall, but I have a teensy little part in it, so... But yeah, it's cool. I got to work with Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Who was a super nice guy.
Add him to the bucket list.
And I got to ask him about, have you ever seen, Due Date, the movie he did with Zach Galifianakis?
Yes.
There's a scene where he spits in Zach's dog's face. And that scene had me like rolling in the aisles. I've never seen a dog get spit on in a movie ever or anywhere. And I just thought it was so funny. And I thought, oh, he must have just done that on one of the takes. So I got to ask him if that was ad-libbed or if it was in the script. And he told me it was in the script.
Wow.
So someone wrote a scene where it's so mean. And you got to watch it because the dog goes like this and they added a little sound effect. So you hear, and it's so heartbreaking, but it's so funny. It's
That's amazing.
The dog is funny looking.
That's great. So then you have... that and then the weatherfrom.com, which is really cool. And then where can people find you on Twitter?
I'm at Dave Krumholtz.
All right.
And people are always like, why isn't it David Krumholtz? And it's because David Krumholtz was taken. Why wouldn't it be David Krumholtz? It's such a stupid because David Krumholtz was taken. I would have liked to take David Krumholtz.
You didn't want to be the real or
I didn't want to be the real. No, that's so stupid. With two E's. No. But I'm also in another movie. You want to hear about it?
I do. We love to hear about movies. Tell me.
I know. Anatomy of a Movie. I'm in a movie called Sausage Party.
Yeah, tell me what that's about, please. Because
so that's coming out next year. It's going to be
the title. Talking about titles, this title is very intriguing.
So the idea is very simply, it's Toy Story for an extremely adult crowd.
Okay.
It's one of the dirtiest movies ever, but it's a CGI animated movie about talking food trying to escape from a supermarket before the July 4th holiday.
Oh, okay.
And they find out that they think that when they're bought from the supermarket, that means they go straight to heaven, where they go to paradise. Oh. And then they find out one of their friends gets bought and almost grilled and eaten, but escapes and comes back to the supermarket and is like, dudes,
you don't want to be bought.
You don't want to be bought. And so all the food in the supermarket tries to escape.
That's hilarious. But it's dirty.
It's so dirty, and I play a lavash wrap. Do you know what a lavash wrap is?
I don't.
It's basically like a I want to say it's like a Middle Eastern flour tortilla.
Okay.
So it's a big wrap.
So you're a rap.
I'm a rap. I'm a talking, angry rap.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's going to be an amazing movie. So, yeah, it'll come out.
And it comes out next year?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. We'll have to have you come back.
I would love to talk about that.
We'll do some anatomy of a movie
Okay.
for Sausage Party because that sounds incredible. But
it's going to be awesome.
Everybody should go see The Big Ask.
Please.
And it comes out in theaters, but it's on video on demand, and that's how I watched it, and it's great.
It's on iTunes, video on demand, Amazon, right? Hulu.
Oh, great. It's everywhere.
Kidding?
It's easy to get
everywhere.
it, guys. Come on,
yeah,
no
I'm
excuse.
surprised that they haven't stopped watching this interview halfway through.
Right, to watch it.
And yeah, if you're still watching this interview,
stop now.
You've made a terrible mistake. You should be
open
watching
a new window and go watch the movie.
Right.
It's almost nice to watch it on your own computer because you can hit pause when it gets real intense.
Yeah, exactly.
Take a little breather, hit play again.
You can play the dog scenes in slow motion and really see how a trained actor works her craft.
I love it. Yeah,
she's an
absolutely.
amazing actress.
And you guys can check us out at Anatomy of a Movie. And I'm Chloe West. I'm on Twitter at Chloe WestX. And thanks so much for watching.
Yay.
Awesome.
All right, you rock. Thank you
Yay.
so much, Chloe. That was fun. That went by so quickly and fun.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the rest of the Anatomy of a Movie staff, we would like to thank you for listening and subscribing to the show. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email or tweet us. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been Anatomy of a Movie.
Thanks for watching Anatomy of a Movie on YouTube. For more on your favorite movies, subscribe to our channel here and be sure to let us know what you think in our comment section below here. Bye.